can't believe I'm here, playing for my life tonight.
I can't believe I'm here, I made it, I'm playing for my life tonight. I'm a shining light. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm here. Playing for our life tonight. Yeah, I'm playing for our life tonight.
Welcome to Kingdom Driven Sports, friends. I really appreciate you dropping by today. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, and I was really hoping to use this summer as a way to really progress through and get my rhythm for Kingdom Driven Sports. Unfortunately, life had other plans, and this summer ended up being quite hectic with lots of things going on. So I apologize about that. I really did intend to try and post videos, especially after the NFL draft, to give my previews of each division. Unfortunately, that did not happen just because, again, certain things came up that were unexpected and made this summer quite a busy one. But I definitely want to try to get back into Kingdom Driven Sports and to post videos, especially now that the NFL season is starting on Thursday, and we're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys play. So I thought, what better way to really get into or get back into the flow than to do week by week predictions for each game. I'm also hoping to do a certain recap of the week and touching on different games and maybe some surprises. But I definitely want to do week by week predictions of the games and just give you some of my thoughts to try to get back into the flow of getting these videos out to you, especially again, now that the NFL season is upon us, college football is upon us. Go Buckeyes. A nice win over Texas, although very low scoring game. But aside from that, I really wanted to jump into the NFL because that is here in the United States the most popular sport. It happens to be my favorite sport at this moment anyway. And so I'm hoping to make videos that you guys will enjoy, again, with these predictions week by week, and then a certain recap of the week. Also, hope you notice my wife helped me, but we did some decorating for my studio, make it look a little bit more presentable. So I hope you enjoy that. But without further ado, let's jump into week one of the NFL game predictions. And again, thank you guys for being so understanding. I hope I can continue to build the fan base for this podcast. Let's go ahead and get started with our week one NFL picks. So we have our Thursday night game. It is the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, with the Philadelphia Eagles favored by 8.5, which they are the defending champs. And I can understand that. But it is a divisional game. Divisional games always seem to be, for the most part, close because those are the opponents you play every year, twice a year. They tend to know you pretty well. So I'd be surprised if the Eagles win by 8.5 just because of that. But the Dallas Cowboys no longer having Micah Parsons. There's a new coach there. I do think the Eagles win. I just don't think it's by 8.5. I think they win probably by around 3. My final score prediction for that game is 24-21. And we'll see how I do. Week one is always the hardest because it's a brand new season. You don't know what you're going to get. But Dallas, Philadelphia, that's a great rivalry. That's been a great rivalry over the years. And so I imagine that this will be another good game. I think it'll be close. I think Dallas has a pretty good offense, pretty good receivers. But I just think Philadelphia has that championship caliber team. And of course, they're going to be in the mix to win it all again this year. So I think the Eagles come out on top and start the year 1-0 with a 3-point victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Then we have a Friday night game, which is not very regular. We don't usually have games on Friday night, but to open the season, we do. And this one happens to take place in Brazil, and it happens to include my Chiefs. And it is the Chiefs at the Chargers. So this is technically going to count as a Chargers home game. I don't know how I feel about that, where teams who play abroad and then the team that's considered the home team basically loses a home game. But at the same time, I'm glad that the NFL is being introduced to other countries to see if there's possible growth for the fan bases and the sport in general. But Chiefs at Chargers, the Chiefs are 3-point favorites, and the Chargers always seem to play the Chiefs tough. And now you have Jim Harbaugh. He's heading into his second year. He did a fantastic job with them last year, and I think they're only going to improve. I know the Chiefs suffered that humiliating loss in the Super Bowl and trying to three-peat and do something that no other team has done. They were unsuccessful, of course. And so I think they come out with a revenge mentality, trying to show that they are still the Chiefs. They're still the AFC champions. And I think they're going to want to make a statement. And I think the Chargers are also going to want to make a statement basically saying, we've arrived, we're for real, and you can't just ignore us anymore, especially since they have a great coach and they have really good players. I really like Ladd McConkey, their draft pick from last year. He really stepped up as the year progressed last year, and I think he's going to be a key weapon for them. They picked up Najee Harris from the Steelers, so I think he's going to be a great addition to their run game, and that's, of course, Jim Harbaugh. That's something he really enjoys doing, is running the ball. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I don't think, again, because it's a rivalry game, I don't think the team that wins is going to win by 3. I think it's going to be really close, nip and tuck. But I do have the Chiefs coming out on top by 21-20. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I think the Chiefs do just enough to get by and get the victory. But the Chargers make a statement in saying that, hey, it's not going to be, the AFC West is going to be up for grabs, and we're going to make sure that you have your hands full every time you play us. Chiefs 21, Chargers 20. The Chiefs eking out a 1-point victory in Brazil. We then move on to our Sunday games, September 7th. These are for the 1 p.m. slot, and so I'm going to go through those games. We have the Dolphins at the Colts, and this was tough just because Tua has had several injuries the past few seasons, concussions, and they've been pretty scary. Just the ones that I've seen have been unsettling to see how it affected him. But if he can stay healthy, the Dolphins actually have a pretty good offense, and so I think they could do really well. I think the Colts are going to have more questions and answers going into week 1. Daniel Jones is said to be their starting quarterback, but again, this being his first year in that system, I really think there's going to be some growing pains. And so I have the Dolphins winning this game. The Colts are actually favored by 1.5, but I think the Dolphins pull it out and win by 7, with the final score being 24-17. The next game, it's the Steelers at the Jets. This is an interesting matchup for me. We have the Steelers, who are 2.5-point favorites over the Jets. And I know it's Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, part of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. But I think there's a lot of question marks there. Which Aaron Rodgers are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that will show you flashes? I know he's not going to be the MVP Aaron Rodgers from before, but are you going to at least get shades of that from him, or is Father Time going to really show that he's caught up to him? And DK Metcalf, this is going to be his first year in that offense, and they're going to have a new running game. I know that Cam Hayward was questionable to play, and I know their pick, Derek Harmon from Oregon, he got injured. There's a lot of question marks there for Pittsburgh, which makes me want to pick the Jets to win. Now, I know they're the Jets. They haven't had very much success over the past decade and a half or so, but I do like Aaron Glenn. I think he's going to instill a winning culture there. I like Justin Fields. I like that he's a dual threat quarterback. And I think the Jets do enough to pull off the upset. In fact, I think they win by 3. I have them winning 28-25 over the Steelers. The Steelers start out 0-1, probably having more questions and answers and trying to figure out a way to bounce back the next week. And I think the Jets ride high for the week and start out 1-0. We'll see where it goes from there. But I think it's going to start out well for Aaron Glenn and the Jets in his first season as a head coach. Next, we had the Panthers at the Jaguars. This was actually tougher to pick than I thought it would be, simply because if you remember last year, the Panthers ended the season pretty well. They were doing really well. Bryce Young was playing very well. But one of the key concerns for me is that they lost Adam Thielen, right? And he's a reliable receiver. He is very good. And so now that they no longer have him, I question, will the Panthers be able to ruin Liam Cohen's first week as a head coach, or first week as the head coach of the Jaguars? And I think they do. I think the Panthers squeak it out by one. I think they win 28-27. I like what they're doing there. I like their head coach, Dave Canales. He is, I think, turning that ship around. That ever since Cam Newton's departure and their loss to the Super Bowl, it just seems that they haven't been the same. I think Dave Canales is really, like I said, turning things around there and helping instill a winning culture. I think they'll be better than last year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, but I think they'll be even better than last year as they continue to gel in both their offense and defense. And I think they actually pull off a win here, only by one, but I think they pull off a win here and beat the Jaguars. Again, the score being 28-27. We then have the Cardinals, who are favored by 6.5 points at the Saints. This is my first blowout. Just don't like where the Saints are. I know they got a new head coach in Kellen Moore, but I don't think any quarterback on their roster just doesn't seem like a franchise quarterback. Now, I can be wrong, but I just think they're going to struggle this year but compete for the number one pick for next year's draft. Now, I can be completely wrong. Spencer Rattler could have a phenomenal year. You never know. That's the great thing about football, but I don't see it at this point. I don't see their roster being elite at this point. And so I think they're going to struggle this year. I think they're going to struggle in this game against the Cardinals, who are led by Kyler Murray, hoping Marvin Harrison Jr. can stay healthy. I'm looking for a big game from Kyler Murray. I think he's going to throw multiple touchdown passes, and I think the Cardinals are going to win by 14. I have the final score being 28-14, and I think one of those touchdowns by the Saints is probably going to come in like garbage time. And yeah, I just see the Saints struggling this year. After that, we have the Giants and the Commanders. I just don't think Brian Dable lasts through this year. You never know. You could. I don't know how long Russell Wilson will be the quarterback, or Jameis Winston, or Jackson Dart, when he'll actually get to start. But unless something drastic changes, I just don't see the Giants having a good year this year. And I think they start off the year with a loss. I think the Commanders, even for a division game, which usually, like I said, division games tend to be close, I think that the Commanders will handle the Giants. They'll win by 10, and it'll be 24-14. And just have very little faith and hope in the Giants impressing me this year, and probably not as bad as the Saints. I don't think they're in a bad a position or bad a roster as the Saints are, but I do think they're going to be towards the bottom of the league and towards the top of the draft pick. So hopefully they can make some good draft choices in next year's draft and really help turn things around for them. After that, we have the Buccaneers at the Falcons, another divisional game. Those two teams usually have really good games. The Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points. I need to mention, I apologize, I don't think I mentioned that the Commanders in the previous game against the Giants, or the game we just covered, they were favored by 6.5, so I think they'll cover that. But the Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points at the Falcons. And I think the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield has been reborn there and doing very well. Now, I don't think Cleveland gave him enough of a chance. I think they should have held on to him, and I think it would be better than the situation they are in now. But I'm glad that he found success and new life in Tampa Bay because things are working out. I like their head coach, Todd Bowles. I think they do well against this again this year. I think Baker Mayfield has another great year. And I think they start off this season with a win against the Falcons. I think it'll be like a 7-point game. I think they'll win 27-20. But I think that Baker Mayfield has proven that he's a winner. He's come in clutch during times where they needed him to make a play. And I think he'll do the same thing this week against the Falcons. After that, we have the Bengals and the Browns. The Browns are, I don't know. The Browns are just the Browns. And I don't know how they'll do this year. Joe Flacco, of course, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he's definitely past his prime. He's in the golden ages or the golden years of his NFL career. It's much closer to the finish of his career than the start, but at least I'll have that experience with him there. I honestly think Shedeur Sanders could do well. I know a lot of people, he rubs them the wrong way because he has big ego, but you gotta look at his dad, man. Prime time, he had a big ego, and most of the time he could back up what he said. So I think Shedeur Sanders will at some point play. I know a lot of people think maybe Dylan Gabriel, and he might have a chance as well. But I do think that they shouldn't overlook Shedeur Sanders, and they should put him in a position that gives him the best opportunity to show what he has, to see if he can compete at the NFL level. He had a pretty good NFL preseason game. The first game they played, it wasn't so great later, but I think that's because he was playing with the third stringers at that point. And so I think if you give him a chance, he could find success there. I just don't know the Browns will. And in this game, you have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, and of course on the other side, you have Trey Hendrickson. They've proven that they're pretty phenomenal together. So I do think that the Bengals end up winning this game, and I think they win it by 10, 27-17. I think Joe Burrow has a great opening day. Now, there are still question marks for Cincinnati. Is their defense going to be good enough for them to make a championship run and compete with the likes of Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore? I don't know. I would venture to say no at this point just because of what we saw last year. But anytime you have Joe Burrow at the helm and you have someone like Jamar Chase catching balls and T. Higgins on the other side, you give yourself a shot. So we'll see how well they do this year. They do well against the Browns this week 1, I think. But as for the rest of the season, we'll see. We then have the Raiders at the Patriots. Both teams with new head coaches. The Raiders have Pete Carroll. And, of course, the Patriots now have Mike Vrabel. He had success in Tennessee. And, of course, Pete Carroll had great success in Seattle, winning a Super Bowl, going to 2, almost winning a second one. Had he run Marshawn Lynch at the goal line, I think they win back-to-back Super Bowls. But hindsight is 2020. But they're playing each other. We have the Raiders who go into New England. The Patriots are going to be 2.5-point favorites, 2.5-point favorites over the Raiders. But I like the Raiders in this game. I do. I like them. I think Pete Carroll's going to have a pretty good game plan going into New England. And I think they eke out a win by 3, 24-21. I think they're probably going to rely on the run game heavily. I think both coaches are probably going to try to use the run game heavily and try to establish it early on. But I'm going to say that at this point, I trust Geno Smith a little bit more than Drake May. I think Geno Smith makes just enough plays to help them get the victory in New England. Again, a 3-point victory, 24-21. And I think it'll be a pretty good game And Pete Carroll will start off his AFC West campaign 1-0 with the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think going 0-1 will deter or make a big difference for New England, because I do think as the year progresses, they are actually going to be one of those kind of surprise teams that does better than what people anticipated. We now jump into the afternoon games for Sunday, which are the 4:05, 4:25 slot. And the first one is a 4:05 game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers go in as 2.5-point favorites, but I have the Seahawks winning by 21-20. Now, if you remember back in the day, like Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom, back when they had Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin and Marshawn Lynch. Then on the Niners, you had the Colin Kaepernick era. You had, I remember Michael Crabtree was there. And it was just epic games between the Niners and the Seahawks. And I think this is going to be another one of those. Cooper Kupp is now on the Seahawks. Of course, we have Sam Darnold on the Seahawks as their new quarterback now that Geno is in Las Vegas with Pete Carroll. And even though I think San Francisco has won 5 out of the last 6 against the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks win this game. I think home field advantage, because Seattle's one of the toughest places to play, comes into play, and I think they start the year off 1-0. I have too many question marks for the Niners at this point. I know Brock Purdy has proven himself, but now that he has his new contract, I want to see if the pressure of that new contract affects him in any way. And I want to see how banged up they are still, and if Christian McCaffrey's back to being Christian McCaffrey. And so we'll see. It could go either way. I just felt more that it's leaning just slightly towards Seattle's favor. So I have them winning by 1. The next 4:05 game is the Titans at the Broncos, and this is another, as much as I hate to admit it, because I hate the Broncos are my least favorite team, and if they never win again, it would still be too soon. But I have them blowing out the Titans. I think they're going to wreak havoc on Cam Ward in his first game, because the Broncos, as much as I hate to admit it, have one of the best defenses in the league, and I think they're just going to cause mayhem for Tennessee, and they're going to end up winning by 17 points. And I think it's going to be 34-17. Cam Ward is going to struggle in his debut just because he's going up against an elite defense, a great head coach in Sean Payton, and I think Sean Payton has the Broncos starting off fast, and Bo Nix improves upon his rookie season and leads them to an easy victory over the Tennessee Titans. We then have the 4:25 game, which is a great matchup. Lions at Packers, with the Packers being favored by 2.5 points. Of course, the big news, Micah Parsons is now a Packer, got traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. And I think he's going to be a key addition to the defense. I think he gives them a good chance to compete for a Super Bowl. However, I'm going to take the Lions in this. And the reason I take the Lions in this, and I think they win by 3, 31-28. A, it's a division game. Division games, again, are tougher. But B, Micah Parsons has been dealing with a back injury, so I don't know how that's going to affect him. I have question marks now about the defensive interior of the Green Bay Packers and see how that's going to hold up against the run. We know Dan Campbell likes to run with Sonic and Knuckles, their nickname. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a threat to take it to the house anytime he touches the ball. David Montgomery. And so I wonder, and I know there's the question marks for Detroit. How is their new offensive and defensive coordinators, how are they going to do? How are the players going to respond to these new coordinators? But I just think there's a little bit more stability there than in regards to what the players know than in Green Bay, where Micah Parsons is brand new, but also facing a back injury. That was the main thing, the back. They say he's probably going to have a shot before the game to help him with the pain, but I still wonder how effective he's going to be able to be. Because back pain, back issues, they're no fun, and they can be a hassle to deal with. So we'll see. We'll see how they do. But I'm going to take the Lions to open up the year 1-0 with a 3-point victory over the Green Bay Packers. The last afternoon game is also at 4:25. It's the Texans at the Rams. And the Rams are favored by 3. And I think they win by 3. I think 28-25 will be the final score of that game. And I want to see more from the Texans before I feel comfortable saying, oh, yeah, they're an AFC contender. They are a Super Bowl contender. I know a couple years ago that a lot of people were high on them, and it seemed they took a little bit of a dip last year. And so I want to see how they bounce back. But I trust Sean McVay, Matt Stafford. They have now Devontae Adams on that offense. And so we'll see. Now, Puka Nacua, I mean, that guy's a stud. So I'm really thinking that they're going to do well. And I think they pull out the victory here and win by the spread that they're said to win by, which is 3 points. Again, final score being 28-25. We then move on to what is, in my opinion, the game of the week. And that is the Ravens at Bills. It's a 1-point favor for the Bills. They're favored by 1 point. And it should be epic. You have Lamar on one side. You have Josh Allen on the other. And you know it's going to be a battle. They're going to put on a show. Both have similar yet different styles of playing quarterback, which what I mean by that is that they both can run the ball, but they run the ball very differently. I think the Ravens come into this game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because of how last year's playoff game ended with a point to prove. And I think the Ravens win this game. They win it by 1, 24-23. And I think it turns out to be a great game between two great teams. Two teams that I firmly believe are going to be contending for the AFC and trying to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs. But Baltimore, well coached. Same thing with Buffalo. And so you have John Harbaugh, of course, with Baltimore, and Sean McDermott with Buffalo. We'll see how it turns out. But I just think the Ravens come in wanting to play with that little bit of a chip on their shoulder, trying to prove that they belong in the upper echelon of the AFC. And so the final score for that, I have the Ravens winning by 1, 24-23. And then we have our Monday nighter. It is an interesting matchup, a divisional matchup again. This is the Vikings at the Bears, with the Vikings being favored by 1.5 points. And I'm taking the Bears by 3, 24-21, for the simple reason that this is Caleb Williams' second year, and this is going to be J.J. McCarthy, although technically his second year. He missed all of last year because of injury, so it's going to be his actual first time starting. And I think the Bears, under Ben Johnson, new head coach Ben Johnson, do a good enough job to come out with a victory. Now, how they do for the rest of the year, I don't know, is yet to be seen. But I just feel that Caleb Williams is going to feel a little bit more comfortable with it being his second year, making plays and doing what he needs to bring a victory to the Bears, while J.J. McCarthy is probably going to, I think, still play well, but experience some growing pains. So those are my picks again. Bears by 3, 24-21. Those are my week 1 picks. We'll see how I do. I'm hoping to make a recap video, going over how I did with the results, and then also touching on some of the key games and key things that I either missed or was surprised by, and also what we could look forward to for the following week. The first month, it tends to be a little bit tough in choosing who's going to win because you never know. There always seems to be a surprise team. Like last year, who would have thought at the beginning of the year that the Commanders would have had the type of year that they did? Yeah, they made it to the NFC Championship game. I always feel that there's 1 or 2 teams that are surprising. And then I also feel like there are usually 1 or 2 teams that we think are going to do better and end up regressing. So we'll see how this week 1 starts and really how the first month of the NFL season, this year's NFL season starts. But I'm excited. I love football. Love this time of year coming up. And of course, I also probably want to touch on college football at some point. But I really wanted to get this video out to you before the start of the game tomorrow between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, my apologies for having missed so much time and not being able to put out a video during the summer. Again, just life happened and lots of things were taking place. I'm glad that we're getting settled back into a normal schedule. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to making more videos to post, and I hope you guys enjoy them. I thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers. I hope that you have a blessed day, and I gotta say it, go Chiefs. God bless you guys. I'll talk to you soon.